welcome to Shop Talk, episode 15 with Jim and Ken. I'm Jim.
And I'm Ken.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the sparing of radios and the trial license key, how that works. So, Ken, I'm going to hand it over to you to begin to talk about that.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. This topic comes up a lot, like all the other topics we try to cover here in Shop Talk. Customers will ask me what our sparing philosophy is for our radios if they want to hold their own hot spares, or maybe they have our advanced replacement service or something like that. And then the topic comes up about whether or not they need to do license keys for their spares, how to prepare that. So a lot goes into this, but we'll try to cover the basics of this, and then we'll pitch you back to the radio so you can sort of see how this works. So for our radios, we're basically a pair of radios come in a high transmit and a low transmit. And if you want to have hot spares, you'll have to have one of each of those two terminals. But the good news is you do not need to put any license keys on those radios or buy license keys to have in your account ready for those radios. What we do instead of that is we have a process called trial key. And the idea here is that you could take a radio out of the box, and you can even do it for the brand new radio they haven't bought keys on yet. But the idea is really to approach for the spares philosophy. You can take this radio, hang it in the air, hit a trial key button on the radio that turns on all the functions of the radio altogether, and that'll get you up and running with all functionality that you would ever need. That trial key, however, has an expiration to it. It's 60 total days of operation. So that countdown timer starts as soon as you hit the button, and you basically got 60 days to do about three things. One is return the radio that was RMA'd back to us. We'll get it. So that's stage one. Get it back in the mail. Get it back over to us. We'll get it. When we receive it, we will revoke the licenses. Basically, take the license keys off of that serial number, put them back into your account. So that's sort of stage two. And then stage three is you want to go into your account, create the license key using those keys for the serial number that you put up in the air, and load those onto the radio that you had. That basically will then install the original key functions you had on the original radio in time, all that within 60 days, get that installed, and it'll be running. Now, the one downside to all this is you can't stop the trial. So once you started it, the clock is ticking. The only way you can stop it is basically to unpower the radios. But if this is a live link, it's just going to keep running. You will have access to all the other features that weren't part of your license key. They'll all just count down and expire and go away. That'll be fine. You'll be left with the same functionality you had. Now, when I'm talking about this, there is one other feature about the trial key that can come in handy. If you had a live link running, like say your first pair, and they weren't running on trial keys, they were running on the actual keys, and you wanted to try out a feature, I have some customers, for example, that say, I'd really like to see what header compression does for my network, but I don't really want to pay for the key to test that. You could use the trial key for that as well. Run your tests. It'll just expire in 60 days. You won't have that function anymore. But it should give you adequate time to do that kind of testing, and then you'll know whether or not you want to buy that key. You can go out and get that key and load it on the radios, that kind of thing. So if you're doing that in your first hop, you're not doing that on your spare, you do have some other opportunities to try out different features of the radio that you might be considering licensing or not. So that's kind of the first thing. I really just wanted to cover that in spares. You don't have to buy license keys. You have this trial key function, but there are some important steps. One of the things I tell a lot of customers is, put a couple of reminders in your calendar, like after you ship the radio by Friday. Maybe the next reminder is check with Aviat in a couple of weeks to see if the keys are there, and maybe one out maybe a month from now to say, make sure I did all that stuff in time before the keys expire. When the keys expire, things don't go well. The radio basically drops all the functionality that you've loaded into it. It keeps the link up, but with very, very thin bandwidth. You'll be panicking at that point. So let's avoid that. I'll do everything you need to do within 60 days. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jim, and he can show you kind of what this looks like on the radio.
Yeah, exactly. So good points there, Ken. Don't let your trial expire. That will certainly cause your link to slow down. I think it defaults to 10 megabits you're going to get across the link. Just enough to access the far end to upload your permanent license keys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to toggle over to the radio screen here, and we're going to take a look at the actual licensing in the radio interface. So what we're looking at is I've logged into my radios. I've come down under the admin section, clicked on licensing, and you'll notice some things here. Now, on my radios from my lab here, I've activated the trial because I want to have access to all the features. Now, so you can see right here under trial, it's indicated that it's already been used. If I had not pressed the trial button, you'd actually have right here, instead of used, a button you can press that says activate trial. Now, once you've done that, you're going to notice under the feature sets, anything that's not permanently licensed is going to show you a trial. And now for me, I've got 47 days left of my trial. Now, because these are my lab radios, at the end of the day, I power them off and they could sit here for several days without being powered up. So it's probably been at least a year since I've activated the trial, but I don't use them that often for demos and whatnot. So I still have 47 days left on my trial. But now you will notice here, for the installed bundles in green, these are what's been permanently licensed. So for example, I've got a 10 gigabit license. This is a set of multiband radios we're logged into. So we've got an E-band radio, which will do 10 gigabits. So I've permanently got that 10 gigabits on. I've got my second RFM, basically the second microwave transceiver module has been activated permanently. Some other features are permanent. You'll notice here, for example, 256-bit AES encryption. That's still running on the trial. So for 47 more operating days, I can access the AES 256-bit encryption feature. So as Ken mentioned, once the trial expires, my radio is going to go back to whatever features were licensed. So as you think back about this RMA process Ken was talking about, you've got a bad radio, it's got sent back to the factory. We'll then remove those keys off the old serial number and redeposit those into your account. And what shows up is entitlement keys. And what you're going to do is you take the serial number, so we've got this electronic serial number that's being displayed here. You're going to copy that serial number, go into your Aviat Cloud licensing portal, and then match that up with those entitlement keys that you want to permanently activate on the radio. So our cloud will then produce a license file, which will get downloaded into your PC. You're going to again come back to the radio, log in, navigate here, and I'm going to then choose from my browser, choose file. So I can then go find that license file that was just generated off of your cloud account and upload that into the radio. So if I selected it, and then that would then permanently activate those particular features. And those are the things that are showing up in green here. So that's kind of the full process. You've seen it from kind of Ken explaining the step-by-step. And then you see here in the radio interface how to actually create new keys and then also activate your trial and see how many days are left on your trial. So anything else, closing thoughts on that, Ken?
Since we're talking about license keys, it's probably useful also to say that if you had a license key that let's say we were in that mode where you wanted to try multi-layer header compression and you liked it, but the trial is going to expire now. Well, you can buy the MLHC key from us. It'll get deposited into your Aviat Cloud account, and you can build a license on that serial number, and that new license file can be loaded into the radio. And it already knows, the key function basically already knows, it already had these other license keys already on it. It's adding that MLHC key on top of that function. So that kind of relates to that as well, so it gets you deeper into the licensing, understanding how those license keys work. So you can continue to add license keys to the existing license keys that you already have installed.
Yeah, one in particular I see a lot of people doing is their capacity key. They may start off and only license 500 megs because they're just getting started and they can monitor the utilization. Over time, if you need more capacity, you just add more capacity keys to it. And they're stackable, so you can go from 500, you can add another 100, and whatever increment steps, because these things are available in pretty granular steps. You can add a gigabit. You could max it out at a 10 gigabit license key. But at any rate, they're additive inside your radio, so you can take small steps up if you want to.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap on this version of Shop Talk. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.